Yeah, I'm feeling connected to my higher self. I always seem to find this version when I'm by myself. I had no problem being alone, but they tell me every king needs a throne. But I don't want no fancy chair crown, I want a home. Thought you wanted.
Welcome to episode 19 of the Julio and Ice podcast. If you're tuning in on YouTube, you can tell I don't have Julio to my left of the screen. If you remember, Julio is taking a 2-week vacation. Maybe it's just 1 week, but he's missing 2 episodes. And he's in the motherland of Puerto Rico. He's probably, got a nice tan right now, probably sipping a Corona or something. But he probably listened to this. And so my guest this week is Nick Friar, one of my good friends from high school. And if some of you guys maybe listen to the 5 Out podcast, Nick was the one that brought me on to that show. And that was my first pod. He's also helped me out a lot with this pod, just learning the ins and outs of running a podcast, editing a podcast. So I appreciate him a lot. And I appreciate it again because he came on this week as one of our interview guests. Kind of had a schedule conflict. So Nick wanted to come on. I asked Nick to come on, and I figured it'd be a good way to, talk some hoops. So I didn't have to do a podcast by myself because I think that's awkward. So Nick, how you doing? I appreciate you coming on.
It would be awkward if you had to do it solo. I've done that before. That was when I first forayed in podcasting. That was a baseball podcast, and that was brutal when I had to do that. But Matt, you didn't tell me I was filling in for Julio. I thought we were like changing the podcast. We were like relaunching 5 Out, but rebranding it as Iced Fries or something like that.
Ice and fries. Yeah, I like that.
Yes. Yeah, I thought that's what we're doing. So I thought Julio was like on a vacation, not just for like, cause I thought it was like a mental health break from what happened with the Knicks and everything.
I think he honestly, Julio, if you're hearing this, I hope you're just getting rid of all the Trae Young images you have in your head, because that dude probably is, caused nightmares to Knicks fans. But
I mean, did you see some of the videos that came out of that? My God, Knicks fans are absolutely insane. They're so seriously though, Matt. I know you want to save it for when Julio gets on, but Knicks fans are way more delusional than I ever thought, because some of my coworkers at DraftKings are Knicks fans, and one of them was like, their hope was to make the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm like, okay.
Which is bananas.
How can you're setting yourself up for frustration and disappointment if that is your hope? I mean, you got to go through the Sixers, and at the time, Embiid wasn't an issue, but you can't even get through the freaking Hawks.
Well, I think Julio said it the best. He said the Knicks are great at I can't remember the line. It was so good.
Creating hope.
Not even creating hope, just always disappointing. Like that was the main point of it. It's just like they build you up to disappoint you.
They've turned it into an art form.
But I told him, like, I think the Knicks, and I thought it was a good comp. I said the Knicks reminded me of that Isaiah Thomas Celtics team in a way. Not, I think that Isaiah Celtics team was a little bit better, but in the same way, like you get exposed when you play against better talent in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. And I think, I still get people that will reply to me, even if I'm like tweeting out baseball stuff, they will still say, hey, tell that idiot Medeiros that he was so right about, getting rid of Gordon Hayward, because look at what happened to the Celtics this year. He will still chirp me. Because
you know what the funny thing is? You should reply and say, yeah, what was Gordon Hayward doing at the end of this year? Oh, wait, he was hurt again.
Yeah. He did nothing again. How do you I cannot believe that dude went to Charlotte. But I don't want any part of that. You want to play in Charlotte with Terry Rozier? I know Ball's like kind of turning things around there, but get out of my face. But yeah, back to like the Knicks and stuff like that. I think that they're like the Isaiah Thomas Celtics are a good comp, but that was a more talented team because obviously they went on a better run and everything. And going against, that buzzsaw with LeBron and everything, that's kind of the clear-cut difference where they made it to at least that point. But and the East is better now, too, in fairness to the Knicks. But, I mean, anybody who thought that the Knicks had a legitimate chance at anything better than a first-round, win, like I thought they would have beat the Hawks. I honestly did. But anything better than that, you were nuts. You're lying. You're kidding yourself.
For anybody that doesn't know, Nick worked at WEI, and that's kind of how the 5 Out pod started. And that's what he was referencing when people are still tweeting at him. If we want to revisit that, those takes I had, the only thing, if I honestly go back, the only thing that I wouldn't double down again on is Marcus Smart. I think I've got to the point where I'm all set with him going. Like, he just has to go. And it's not really the player in the sense of I think you need a guy like him in a way to win, but not his mentality and stuff. He's just gone. Like, he's too far over the game. Like, you can't bring him back unless a new coach can.
That is what it's going to come down to ultimately. And they are such a mess with all this. I don't think that Danny Ainge was like a knee-jerk thing. And I know there's like stuff that Danny Ainge just said that like pissed people off that has to do with off the court stuff. But in general, all of that has just turned into an absolute fiasco. And I don't think Gordon Hayward leaving was like it wasn't the start of it necessarily. I think the disappointment in the bubble where you're going up against the Miami Heat, and look, I respect Jimmy Butler and I have so much more respect for Eric Spoelstra after what they did and everything, but I'm sorry. You should have beat them. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You gave up. You sucked. And the Kemba Walker thing, that has been the ultimate fiasco. And that's all goes back to the All-Star game. That's as much as, maybe if they did a little homework, they would have known that Kemba's kind of prone to this, I guess. But he was, Matt, I mean, you remember, he was fine until that All-Star game.
Yeah, no, he was trash after that.
And now he's nothing. He's nothing. He's worthless. I mean, you're better off with IT with a messed up hip at this point. And they are such a mess. And when it comes to like picking out the head coach, I don't think they're going to get it right. I don't.
So what
Jason
are you?
Kidd? He was fucking. I hated him. I don't know if you're allowed to swear on this.
Oh
podcast.
yeah, we
I'm
swear.
so sorry.
It's raw.
Oh,
it's raw.
Fucking Jason Kidd. I mean, if there's one basketball player I hated growing up, it was Jason Kidd. As a Celtics fan, come on. That's why I want running the show. I mean, unless he's like, I'm going to be convinced he's like a sleeper cell for the Nets.
I'm all set with Jason Kidd, to be honest with you. I was going to ask you, what are your initial thoughts on that whole Brad Stevens? Brad Stevens, I don't like the word promotion because is that getting promoted? You're going
failing upwards is what they call it.
I know, but is it really a promotion? Because I think someone on TNT, one of the I think maybe it was Kenny. He said, he made it sound like, to him it's not a promotion because you're the GM and the front office and the coaching staff are two different departments. He said a promotion would be like if you're the GM and you get promoted to the team president or something like that, but or assistant coach to head coach. But I mean, essentially, I guess that's what we all look at it, right?
Well, like Red Auerbach, right? He was running the show and he was coaching, and then eventually he just ran the show. So if Brad had won a couple times and then he was like, I am worn down, COVID, the bubble, all this stuff, then it would be a little bit different. Honestly, if they had just made it to the finals, which was totally within the realm of possibility in the bubble, he'd still be the coach. Danny Ainge would more than likely still be there. None of this would be happening, but they failed. It was brutal. And this year different because Brown was out at the end and everything. But I think that Brad he doesn't look good at the end of all this. It just shows that and I think this is where he belongs though. At the end of it all, he just can't. I think Marcus Smart, you bring him up, he's too strong a personality. I think for Brad Stevens, he's overpowering. And then as much as, got Kevin Durant saying that Jason Tatum's like in that Kobe, the Duncan stratosphere, which is a little bit much. Take it easy.
Geez. These guys love to just ball wash each other. Oh my God.
That's 1,000% the case. I think, see, what's funny with baseball growing up, it was always like we saw guys who played the game had to be managers. You very rarely saw somebody who played anything up lower than Major League Baseball manage. Football has there's never been that kind of role. Belichick obviously didn't play until it was Division III football, I think, right? Big difference. Basketball, I've always thought it was former players as well. And but it's not been the case. And I know Red Auerbach is obviously successful, but then Phil Jackson was obviously a former player. I do think when it comes to being a head coach, where you're managing personalities, it would make sense that you have a former player. And that's why when Perk says Sam Cassell makes the most sense as a head coach, that without knowing anything about his coaching philosophy, because I think in the NBA, we've talked about it a ton, you and I, just in general, like it's so much more like personalities and shit. And Cassell was not a star, but he was around a lot of them.
No, I totally agree with that. I think when they're thinking of the next coach, I think it has to be someone like that. I think it has to be someone that's been there, maybe one as a player, because I think players respect that. Yeah, because I think of myself, right? Like if you're out there in the coaching world, right, whether it's the high school ranks, college ranks, if you've never done it yourself, I do think at some level players will respect you if you know the game, whether you played or not. But I think it's like maybe initial respect right away that they know, all right, this dude like is a player. He knows what he's doing. Like whatever, it's that kind of thing.
The speed of the game is a big part of it all too. It changes at every level of every sport. It's a huge difference. And sorry, I know Brad played college basketball, and I know he was obviously very successful in the college ranks, but there's a big difference in the speed at the college ranks and the NBA ranks.
Yeah, I've never thought like definitely a great basketball mind. He doesn't seem like he commands, the locker room and I think him being put in the, where he is now, the team president or whatever the hell it is. I think it's more of a contractual thing because, they re-upped, I thought it was very odd anyway. They gave him 6 years and I'm like, all right, dude, why are you giving
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know. I just feel like this was a move that they felt like they're locked in money wise. So might as well not let, fire his ass, which I thought they should have done. They should have just cleaned house, but they owe money. So they're just going to put him in the front office and hope that works out maybe, or maybe a team gets desperate and wants to, give you an asset for Brad Stevens. I don't know, but I'm with you though. Back to the head coach, Jason Kidd is a no-go. I would like to see I like a Juwan Howard. I don't know if he'd ever leave Michigan because, sometimes you got it made when you're a college coach and you get a good
Michigan,
program.
For sure.
So a guy like Juwan Howard, I would like a Chauncey Billups. I really like Chauncey Billups.
That would be so funny if Chauncey Billups came back after all those years.
Yeah.
I remember learning as a kid, like when he was on the Pistons, he was originally a Celtic. And we were really young when he was on the Celtics. And I remember my dad telling me, and I was like, wait, what? We had Chauncey Billups and he's not on the team anymore?
Yeah.
What the hell? What are we thinking?
Yeah, it was like a blip in the radar.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think overall the Celtics just need a complete culture change. And what's funny though, like the Dame Lillard stuff started happening with started coming up when they said, because Jason Kidd obviously is someone they're probably looking at to bring in the Celtics. Yeah, and someone was like, now on Twitter, the Twitter sphere, they got this, Dame Lillard, trade, make this happen. Okay, first of all, it's not happening. But second of all, the funny thing is people will legit ask me, and this is why I know Celtics fans are crazy. Just like the people that still tweet you about Gordon Hayward, which I'm still right about. So anybody that listens to this, screw you. I'm right.
No, I mean, he did. I don't want to put any part of Gordon Hayward. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Anyways, come on. Anyway, so someone asked me a couple of days ago, they were like, all right, would you trade like Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, and 2 first-round picks for Dame Lillard? I said, yeah, in a second. I'd do it yesterday. And they were like, you would trade Smart and Robert Williams? I'm like, yeah. Okay, what about 3 first-round picks in those 2 guys? I was like, yeah. Like, what Danny Ainge has showed you is that first-round picks, unless you're in the top 5, really, you're shooting a dart at the board and hoping you're hitting, because that dude hasn't hit in I don't know how long after not a non-lottery pick, which they'll probably be in because they're going to have a good record, above average record because you have Tatum and Brown. But like, what's your obsession? Like, again, I like
your
Marcus.
boy Pritchard though.
No, Pritchard and Neesmith, I think were, for where they were picked, were good picks, right? I thought they were solid.
Same pick as Langford, right? Was he 14?
Yeah.
Were they both 14?
Yeah, but here's the thing. What does Neesmith do? He can shoot. What can Langford do? Not shoot. But I'm off the Marcus Smart train. Like I said, I take that back. Last year I was riding with him.
You were hardcore.
But now after this year, I'm just, I'm all set with him. Like, he can go. But like, people's obsession with Robert Williams, like, I like Robert Williams. But I'm sorry, what's Bill Belichick's? I always forget his awesome line about availability.
Oh, best ability is availability.
Yeah, like that's Robert Williams' problem. I get his potential. Like if he could stay healthy, I love him. I think he brings a lot to the table. The dude is so unreliable.
Keep
going.
There's too many athletes through the years where it's like, if they could do this, if they could do that. And look, I'm definitely guilty of having guys like that where I get excited about, but as a fan growing up, I would get excited about guys like that aren't on my team. I wouldn't get excited about like that, like about guys that are on my team, like any of the, because we both grew up rooting for the Boston teams. If it's an if with them, then like I don't want, like, then I'm kind of a little less interested in them because they're not going to be out there. So what the fuck good does that do for me?
No, nothing.
Nothing. I mean, it's just all like it's something to get excited about because it's not there. No, what do I have right in front of me? And I have a guy who's very talented, but he can't be your number one big man because he's not going to stay healthy. He runs into issues. Whether or not that's him being lazy and not taking care of himself, or just he runs into a shit ton of bad luck, whatever it is, I don't hold it against him. It's just a fact. You can't rely on him enough. So you need to have somebody better than him. And I mean, is that Tristan Thompson?
That dude.
It's not.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it too, when like people forget, like they obsess about the players, the smart, we're talking about Damian Lillard. Like if this was even a possibility, which it's not, but like this is how crazy these people are, is like they think that's a bad trade. I'm like, dude, you're getting a top 10 player. I don't care if he's 30. He'll be a top 10 player probably for the next 2 or 3 years, depending on injury. But like, let's get over the, role players that you really love. Let's move on from that, because obviously this league is star driven. But I want to ask you, like, what do you think now that Danny Ainge is gone? My opinion, I think it's yours too. Overrated GM. I think, he wasn't a bad GM. I'll never say that. And he wasn't even an averager. He was above. I think he was above average, but he had some shortcomings. What do you think his shortcomings were? Were they his drafting?
Yeah, that's the first thing that I think of.
So that's your number one thing.
Number one thing that I think of is his drafting. But I also think just when you look at the Romeo Langford thing and that whole draft class, but when I think of him too, it's like Trader Danny is the first thing that pops up, right? Oh, he makes all these trades, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, look, he got Kyrie. Nobody could have seen what happened with Kyrie. Now, if you had a former player here, that could have made a difference, maybe. But also, Kyrie had some things going on with him, and then whatever. And then with IT, that was awesome too. So and then of course, Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen, all that stuff. But I do feel like the whole Trader Danny thing, somewhere along the line, and maybe it was because of the Garnett move and the Ray Allen move, it just became this like crazy thing. And if we don't look back at the Kevin Garnett thing and think that Kevin McHale played a role in that, I don't care if you're talking about opinion or you have facts. Like, come on, let's be real for a second here. Like, KG wanted to friggin' win, and they wanted him in Boston, and obviously he has since said he wishes he had gone there sooner in his career. So the whole idea that he's like this crazy awesome trader, it became this thing like where he swindled a couple people or whatever, and now they don't trust him. Like I remember hearing that. I've heard that about GMs in basketball and in baseball, where it's like, oh, we have a price for this GM, and then we have a different asking price for this GM. Now maybe that's partially because of what you have on your team, but also because some guys are going to screw you over, and you're not going to trust them. And I felt like that kind of happened with Danny Ainge along the way, and it was his best trait, but he kind of like shot his load on it too soon, I guess.
No, I think you make a great point, because if you really think about his career, like that 08 made him, right, bringing those. But he also I feel like that was the peak of his GM career. Obviously, they won, but not even because of that. But he made good moves throughout that year, bringing in a PJ Brown, bringing in veteran guys, getting James Posey, had a complete team. But then, to me, he's made two good moves. He made that move to get KJ and Ray Allen, and then essentially traded KG and Pierce and got all those picks that eventually landed him Tatum and Brown, right? So those to me on the surface are the two best moves he's ever made. But other than that, like, and then maybe bringing in trading for IT, because that kind of rebooted the rebuild. The rebuild. It made him fun to watch. But
because then that turned into Kyrie. And look, as much as now we all see it with Brooklyn and how weird he is, and I had to deal with that for.
I was gonna bring that up.
We'll talk about that for sure. But like, no one could have seen what happened to him coming. There's no way in hell. So I still think that at the time that was a great move. And what happened? Look what happened to IT. I mean, he turned into a mess, move. And I hate that it happened to him. I love IT. I think all of Boston does. We have a ton of respect for everything that he did and all the shit that he's gone through. But in the end, that was like a good move at the time. And anybody who says they wouldn't have done it is a moron.
Yeah, total moron.
But it obviously didn't work out well in the end. And I think that Ainge not adjusting on the fly, and when he saw the writing on the wall, that was a mistake too. Also, and I feel like you're going to bring this one up. Another bad move was getting rid of Perk.
Yes, that's where I was. So that's what I'm saying. He made all those good moves, made a team, and then win a championship, and then kind of dissembled that team because he makes a move, and this is why I feel like he never has a really good read on. Well, he did in 08, but then after that, I feel like he never really had a good read on. Like, you need a good mixture of talent. You need talent. Like, let's be real. It's the NBA. You need talent. Talent wins. That's it. But you also need to build, and you need role players, and you need to have a feeling of like the culture and the locker room and stuff. And like Perk was a huge part of that. And trading for Jeff Green, a dude that like
that's right, Jeff Green.
Yeah, and the reason he did it is like, he thought Jeff Green could be that guy to stop LeBron, and I'm like, dude, what? That's why you made for Jeff Green? Like, I don't know, like,
that's right.
I hated that move, and it honestly ruined that team. And then obviously he trades them, makes that swindles Brooklyn, but like he did it again when again, I'm with you. I trade for Kyrie in a second. That trade is a no-brainer. You trade IT, who's damaged goods at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You bring in Kyrie, but then you have a team that has talent. I think it was 2018, when they have all those guys, Kyrie, Gordon, Tatum, Brown,
Horford. Remember that?
Horford, yeah, the whole squad. And
what happened to Al Horford again? Oh, he's right. He got banished to Siberia in the middle of America.
But that's what I'm saying. You have that team. You knew there was something wrong, and he never made a move. Trader Danny never made a move, and he just I felt like he never had a finger finger on the pulse. Like he never just didn't know.
And you know what? You brought this up. I don't know if it was after our show ended, but I remember you saying this specifically, that for all the crazy shit that Kyrie said and did around in his time here, his point about bringing in like a seasoned vet who's somebody that may not play a lot, but it like Vince Carter, what he turned into for the Hawks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would have been probably pretty valuable to have. It would have made a big difference if you got along with Brad Stevens.
Yeah, and I think, and honestly, more of his demise, I think, to be honest with you, is one, like in this, if we're just going in a short window of like in the last 3 or 4 years, didn't get anything for Al Horford, didn't get anything for Kyrie Irving, didn't get anything for Gordon Hayward, Marcus Morris, Terry. You could say, I still say Terry Rozier didn't get anything for him. You could say it was a sign and trade Kemba thing, but that's bullshit. So you had all these pieces. Some guys you hit on it. Terry Rozier was a good hit in the draft, I think, at his spot. And you didn't get anything for any of those guys. Like,
Rozier's the worst one of them all, because Horford, you may have thought he was going to come back. Then the Sixers overpaid for him. Okay, the Horford one I will chalk up to, okay, shit happens. Kyrie was a mess, but when you know he's a mess, you got to make a decision. Yeah. And you're going to try and bring him back, which you probably should have known he wasn't going to come back. It probably wouldn't have been that hard. Everybody and their mother in the league knew it was going to happen. I mean, Bobby Portis, I remember him saying it. We knew in December. And that was around when Dinwiddie started talking to him. So you're telling me that Danny Ainge didn't hear at some point? I mean, come on. I know Tatum is friendly with him, but like, would Tatum not go to Danny and say, hey, or somebody who would talk to Danny and say, hey, like, I don't think he's coming back. And Jaylen Brown, who at the time didn't seem to get along with him, don't you think he would tell somebody that would tell Danny, or at least tell him himself, I don't think he's coming back. So either that or get rid of Terry Rozier, like actually make a trade in some capacity to bring something back for him. Not the Kemba stuff. You're right. I don't like to me, it's nothing. It doesn't count.
So just to wrap up some of the Celtics talk, since we've been hitting on, like, what do you think? Besides the coach, obviously, they'll bring in that. But what do you think are like? What would, if you were the Brad Stevens, I guess now the team, what are three moves that you think you have to make this offseason?
Well, obviously you have to do the coaching thing and you have to get it right. And I'm telling you, if they do not listen, I think Perk is spot on in his assessment of Sam Cassell. Like, obviously he knows him better, and there's a little bit of bias there. I don't know if he's admitted that, but of course there's going to be. But he's got a lot of guys that he likes in the league, and he could easily go and like stamp his name on. But I think that you got to you got to hear what that guy's about, because he has a lot of coaching experience too, and he's seen what Doc has done, both in LA and in Philadelphia, where things didn't end up turning into anything with the Clippers ever with him out there. Yep. Even going back to CP3 days, and now he's gone and up until Embiid, messed up his meniscus a little bit. I really like the Sixers, not against the Nets necessarily, but I really like the Sixers, what they had turned into, and Ben Simmons, whatever he is, but so you got to get that right. That's the number one thing. Like, I know it's like kind of goes without saying, but it's still, if you go and just, if they hire somebody before the postseason is done, unless it's Sam Cassell or if they hire somebody who's on a coaching staff in the postseason right now, okay, fine. Then you probably got to hear a lot of guys, but if they don't like interview people from these teams, then, then I feel like you're doing it wrong. So you got to take your time with this process, get it right, get who Tatum and Brown can get along with. That is the most important to me. You have to figure out what you're going to do at the point guard position, because what is like just at the guard, honestly, just at the guard position outside of Jaylen Brown, because unless you're just going to look at him as a 3 going forward, but what is Marcus Smart? What is he to you? What is his future here? What is Kemba Walker's future here? Can you move him? I don't think his contract is movable. It's going to be, you have to
eat money.
Yeah, it's going to be rough, but you have to figure out what that next step is. And after that, man, I mean, the next one, like the next step is tough, because it's like, all right, well, you've been this whole time. It's like, you got to have a big 3. Everybody talked about big three. Durant, I love it. He says, oh, teams aren't big 3 anymore. And then you get James Harden. Get out of my face.
Yeah.
But so like, that's like that next step is like figuring out who your third guy is, because it can't be Marcus Smart and it can't be Kemba Walker. And I don't think it can be anybody else in this roster. And those are the first 2 guys that you think of. So you need to figure out what your next step is there. And without knowing their money situation off the top of my head, I can't say who you necessarily go after. But that's figuring out your next thing, I guess, for me.
So people might not know, and I wanted to bring this up when you hit about the Kyrie thing, and I just want to hear about your experience with it. Are you still doing the Nets wire before I explain it?
I work for DraftKings now, and that is it. Finally, just one job.
Finally, an employee of DraftKings, which I'm happy for you. But you used to write for the Nets wire, and I used to always die laughing when we talked about like your experiences with those guys. I don't think you had a cover when Harden was there, right? That was after you left? Or?
I was there for Harden for a little bit. And I was there for all the drama of. So I stopped covering the Nets in, was it mid-February, or I think it worked all through February, and then that's when I left. Was balancing that and DraftKings together, and that was no way to live. Just covering the Nets in general, unless you like grew up a Nets fan, like it's no way to live, because it's just every day it was drama with them in some capacity, which is nice as a writer where you have no shortage of writing. But God, the press conferences, I'm not in Brooklyn, but with COVID and everything, we would be on Zoom calls. So, Kyrie and all his craziness. And, I remember after the Pawns comment, right, and he got in trouble with the league, he came on and told us that he what was it like that he didn't mean us when he was saying that, or wasn't directly talking about us, whatever. After obviously covering him in Boston while he was here, and then seeing and listening to him in some of these conversations like with the media, and knowing what he does off the court with like Cherry, like the first thing, like Kyrie, like on the court and all that Kyrie versus Kyrie, like completely away from basketball, he does a lot of good stuff. Like the charity and everything like that. And he doesn't go and this, like, I know with like the WNBA stuff, he kind of put it out there, but even then, I don't know if it was him that put it out there. Maybe he did. Maybe it was WNBA that put it out there. He'll do good things, and he doesn't necessarily tell people. And to me, that is the absolute right way to do it. Let your work speak for itself. And he also says that with basketball, just appreciate the art. I remember him saying that, which is like the biggest roll your fucking eyes thing.
Yeah,
I've ever heard.
He's an artist. That's my favorite. He's an artist.
I'm sorry, ball handling is like the closest thing to an art form in basketball, but I am sorry. Sports are not art, period. It is not an art form.
There's a reason I didn't like art class.
Yes, Matt and I were not artistic at all, and I'm not musical either, for that matter.
Correct.
So that's it. And that's what writing is not. In some way, I'm not going to get into that. But anyways, my point is, with Kyrie, he would say like, appreciate the art, just when it comes to his, like, he doesn't just keep it to basketball though, whatever. And that is where it's like, you want to basically what it comes down to is he's a hypocrite. He wants to have it his way all the time, and he's always going to change what he says. And look, that's why now I don't have to pay attention to the drama anymore. It is the nicest thing in the world. My job is worrying about what happens between the, on the hardwood, between the white lines, all that stuff. There are matters that athletes take on that are important that I do pay attention to. But when it comes to the silly little drama stuff that happens, I don't care. I just need to know who's playing that day, who's coming off an injury, and that's it. Because it's all about betting and fantasy now for me. So I love that. I get this change from covering the Nets. Oh my God, man. It's like just a world of difference. Like I haven't been covering sports for the past 2 years. I've been covering reality TV.
You know what? This is why Kyrie I thought was perfect for LeBron, because LeBron does the same bullshit. How would you like to be teammates with LeBron, right? Not only does he walk out with 5 minutes to go to get treatment for his ankle, that's a bunch of horse shit. First off, you're down 30. If you were up 30, I don't think your ass would be walking to the locker room. But you're down 30, you walk to the locker room, you leave your team in a blowout game 5. Then in game 6, after the game, you're talking about playing for you're promoting pretty much your Space Jam corny ass movie.
Oh God, I forgot.
You're not even.
Are
you even mad that you lost? Like, bro, I don't know.
Did you see the Klay Thompson? Maybe is it Diana Taurasi or Sue Bird? But they have a lot of people in the basketball world. Okay, they're taking on roles in it, and the characters what they've done with them, it looks awful. This movie is
terrible.
Suck.
You would have to pay me probably over $100 to watch the movie, and I won't watch it.
This is gonna be so bad.
But my point is, LeBron and Kyrie just remind me of each other. Like they just they want to have it their way. They control the narrative, but I just don't understand. Because it seems like a lot of teammates like Kyrie. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, God, even Karis LeVert was would always praise him. Everybody got, and you want to talk about somebody getting a raw friggin' deal. I understand getting James Harden, but Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie were my two favorite players to watch in the Brooklyn Nets. And honestly, and look, Kyrie is very talented, and I did enjoy watching him too. And KD's obviously otherworldly, but I like a guy who's talented, but has to, there needs to be a little more effort on their part too, because they're not quite as gifted. And Dinwiddie and LeVert were like that, and Jared Allen too. Well, he couldn't shoot, so he was blocking shots. I live for block shots. So, but to see Dinwiddie go down with a knee injury was devastating, and then LeVert gets traded. Now it ended up being good for him because obviously the health issues that he had, which was terrifying. But then Jared Allen banished to Cleveland. It's what the That's why with Nets fans, it's so funny. And some of the the people who cover the Nets who are still clearly hardcore Nets fans. It's you talk about culture. I came in and covering that team, and Kenny Atkinson was the coach, and you always preach culture. And now the culture Nets. Yeah, and guess what? The culture Nets, you know who's left? Dinwiddie, who's injured, and Joe Harris. Yep. And that's it. Everybody is gone from the culture Nets of what was it, 18-19.
Because this is the epitome of what the NBA is. It's sell your soul to get superstars, get the most talent you can, because that's how you win. And unfortunately, I don't like it because I liked that Atkinson team with those players. They played hard. They were fun to watch. I mean, is it fun to watch?
They're not going to win, but yeah, I get your point.
Exactly. And that's kind of like the Celtics. And it just sucks that you have to sell yourself. Would I take Kyrie's talent and KD's talent? Yes. But I don't know if I'd love that.
You know what, Matt?
Especially when there's drama bullshit. I don't know.
When I look at basketball, obviously it runs into a larger problem when it comes to star talent than football or baseball, and certainly hockey. The thing, that's part of what makes the basketball such a good sport to gamble on, because the stars are going to show up and the stars are usually going to come out on top, and so on and so forth. But with football, it does allow some level of variance, as much as it's still it's at least usually close to the line. Right, in some capacity. Then from there, it's kind of a coin toss, but it's going to be right around the spread. With baseball, it's a high level of variance, and it's very hard to predict. And then with hockey, it's just absolutely bananas.
Chaos.
But with basketball, you don't run into that. And that's where I've thought for years, baseball, because of the issues they've run into with people caring about the sport, I felt like you'd almost be better downsizing the league and then reassessing where you're putting teams. It's not going to happen. Basketball is another one that I think could benefit from downsizing, because then it's like, all right, you won't run into teams where it's like they just don't have the talent, and you don't have necessarily guys selling their souls quite as much. Your teams aren't decimated after somebody leaves, or like the Celtics like trying to like do a reactionary move after Kyrie leaves. Every team has like a couple stars, and then like if one guy switches spots, then okay, another guy's going to do that too, and then another guy, and there's like a domino effect. But in the end, it's like, okay, it's just a matter of who meshes. So it would never happen, never in a million years, especially with the NBA, because it is a juggernaut financially. So yeah, but it is frustrating, like how it's just all that the craziness. But the other thing is too, like from a gambling perspective, it's the second best sport to bet on, or most popular. So people aren't going to complain about that then either. So
well, if anybody bet on the Nets and Brooklyn game tonight, Vegas got that one wrong because they had the spread at -1 for, I think the Nets were underdogs tonight. and I think they're up like 100. So
yeah,
they're up 110 to 74.
Oh my God, they're blowing them up by 30.
So
yeah, I did see that they were underdogs because James Harden was out. I was like, okay, they wanted, look, let's be real here, right? They said that they needed that other piece. They needed that third star. They needed that so they could coast. They didn't need that. I mean, like when
their team was already good.
Yeah, with LeVert, they were already fine. Now you don't have LeVert anymore, and obviously you don't have Dinwiddie, so losing Harden does hurt more than it would have if you had one of those two.
Yeah.
But come on, you still have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and I'm sorry, the Bucks are kind of notorious for choking in the postseason.
What is your take on the NBA playoffs right now in the rounds we're at? So we got obviously I think Brooklyn is going to expose the Bucks once again, and they'll probably be in the Eastern Conference Final. The Hawks upsetting the Sixers in game 1 was a surprise. What do you think in that, Sarah? Who do you like in that?
I actually was on my buddy Kai Carlin's Sixers podcast. He covers the Sixers for USA Today, and that's the bell ringer. And my prediction actually at the start of that series was Hawks in 7.
Wow.
But look, Matt, that was going into that. We didn't know, like we saw obviously what Embiid looked like, in the stat sheet and everything in the first game of the series where his drop was at 39, but he's dealing with a meniscus issue.
Yeah, and he could seriously damage his knee too, right?
I think so. I mean, look, a meniscus thing is already bad, but I do wonder, is it one of those things where it's like, okay, he's partially torn, and the worst thing he can do is completely tear it, but it's not going to matter either way because he's going to get surgery, or is it just like going to hurt more? Like I don't know when it comes to that, but that's where it's like, that's why I'm going with the Hawks, because meniscus is no joke, and even if he can play, I don't know if he's going to be himself. We saw that he was, but guess what? They still lost.
Yeah.
So to me, I mean, look, the Sixers, if Embiid plays every night and he is 80% himself, then the Sixers should still win this series. But if he's 80% himself, then they have zero chance against the Nets whatsoever. I still don't think they have a good chance against the Nets anyways. So it sucks, but like, it's good to see a different team. It's good to see a lot, like not the same names necessarily competing as much as the Bucks are still there. The Sixers are kind of back moving up. So I like that. The Western Conference, I think, is more interesting now that the Lakers are out. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I can't believe the Suns, dude. I cannot.
You know what though? Like Anthony Davis getting hurt, I didn't foresee that. I thought the Lakers would probably win that series in 7. But man, Phoenix, Devin Booker is starting to be that dude that I've wanted him to be, not just a guy that gets buckets on a bad team, but a guy that gets buckets on a good team. And he lit them the F up on game 6. Like it was unbelievable. So I'm happy because I like that team, man. They're good. And do you like them in the series against the Nuggets?
You know what's funny is at first when Chris Paul went there, I think we talked about it. And it was like, okay, like what the only thing that will do is that will help the young guys in Phoenix mature and become better.
That's what I wanted Chris Paul to come to Celtics.
And he's done that there clearly. I mean, he did it in OKC too, right? Yep. We love Shea. Look at what Lou Dort turned into. Yep. And I definitely, for both of those guys, attribute that to Chris Paul. And I like him a lot right now. I really do. I never thought I would say that. I still want to say that the Clippers are going to come out of the West, but
I don't know, man. They're so up and down.
George, man, it just kills me.
Playoff P.
Like, what the hell? Like, yeah. See, that's the thing. Playoff P is a meme now, but why I love him because
no,
Paul
Indiana Paul George was playoff
PG-13, well, PG-24, excuse me. PG-13 is a mess, and I want that is not my Paul George. PG-24 is my guy, and he fucking was like right in LeBron's face, and I don't care who you are, we're gonna fight you the entire time. I don't care if we die at the end of it, and they died every time, but still they put up a fucking fight, and that is not who this guy is anymore. I don't know what happened, and it's so disappointing.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you though. Like I feel like the Clippers would be the choice to come out. I want Phoenix to come out. I think that'd be awesome. So that's the team I'm pulling for. I think the Nuggets, it's been surprising. Joker is just a beast, but I don't know if they had without Jamal Murray. That's a huge loss. But I don't know. I feel like the Jazz could knock off. I think the Jazz will beat the Clippers. I do.
The Jazz could. And you know what I just realized too is I'm like torn now. Like I want Paul George to win because I want this playoff piece.
Your boy's on the Jazz.
But I love Mike Conley too, and I love how this year has gone for him. I'm so happy for him finally getting an All-Star nod. God, talk about putting respect on people's names for the love of Christ. Like that dude deserves so much more than he gets. But the thing is, Matt, that I care about most when it comes to the Western Conference, as much as the Suns are a feel-good story, who wouldn't want to see Jokic keep going? But he doesn't have Jamal Murray, so I don't like that for him for multiple reasons. The biggest one being, who's going to beat the Nets? Obviously, they're the favorite against all those teams. Who has the best chance though? And it's probably the Clippers.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Just straight up like firepower and superstar power. It's them. But so who's your prediction to be in the finals? You obviously have Brooklyn winning it, but you have Brooklyn Clippers.
I've had Brooklyn win it from the entire year, and I don't think it's a hot or bold take or anything. I think anybody who has a brain has thought. I think you have too, right? I'm sorry. I had the Lakers at one point get going all the way, but I did not have them winning it. I felt like that was a toss-up until Anthony Davis's Achilles thing. But now, you raise a good point about the Jazz. That is,
I'm Brooklyn, obviously from the East. West, I'm torn. I want it to be Phoenix and Jazz in the Western Conference Finals. I will watch every game of that series. I love both those teams.
Awesome. And
I'm torn who would win, but I'm gonna go Phoenix and Brooklyn because that's the matchup I want to see. But I don't know.
Yeah, I see. I'd like to see that if I thought Phoenix had like a snowball's chance, and they don't even have that. I don't want to. I do want to see Phoenix win because I do not want any. Because I think, again, long shot still, but the Nuggets have the worst chance of beating the Nets out of anybody right now with no Jamal Murray. I still don't think he would put them over the top, but it would change things immensely if he was there. So I want no part of them moving on. I would like it if they got swept. That would work out great for my mental health. When it comes to the Clippers and the Jazz, I think those are the two teams that have the better chance of beating the Nets, and I still think it's the Clippers. So as much as I love Mike Conley and everything that's happened for him this year, I'm not going to be upset if they lose, but I do think the Clippers have the best chance of beating the Nets, and I still think it's going to be the Hawks as much as because we don't know what's happening with Embiid. So I don't want to keep changing my prediction everywhere. I'd rather just be wrong and say like I was worried about Embiid. I have the Hawks in 7 still. I think that, and I know 7's like an easy way to go, but that series with Joel Embiid like in flux, that should be a 7-game series. The Suns, I'm hoping that they can pull that one out in 6. I like realistically, I'd love a sweep, but I think it'll be 6. And then for the Clippers, Jazz, that one should be 7 games. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the Nets swept the Bucks.
Yeah. Totally. Oh, Jesus Christ! The first 2 games have been.
Yep.
Bloodbath.
It'll probably be a gentleman's sweep, but they got no shot.
They got to blow that. They got to blow that shit up.
They do. It's sad, but they do. You have one of the best players in the league, and you just cannot figure it out.
You know what though? I knew that when I was watching the first round. When I think it was game 1. Might have been game 1. And Middleton's that closer. Giannis can't shoot, dude. He's brutal, dude. His game is like, I get it. He dominates in the paint, but like obviously in playoffs, it was Miami game 1. And he literally could not do anything towards the final stretch. I mean, obviously that was probably the only close game they had because Middleton hit that jumper for the win. But Middleton took all the big shots, and like Chris Middleton is good. I have respect for him. but he's not a number one. I don't even know if he's really a number two. I think he's a solid 3 guy.
He's a number 2 against the Boston Celtics, maybe a number 1 against the Celtics.
Yeah.
That's about it. That's the only team he's out against. But I will say, for people who don't want to see the Nets win, which I know Kyrie thinks the world is cheering for him, but that's quite the opposite. I mean, let's be real. They can't even get fans there. The Knicks fan base is more alive than the Nets fan base for all this shit that's been going on. But I will say, them winning hopefully sends a message to the league office where they try and make some adjustments, because for whatever reasons, there's a whole bunch of different ones that Kyrie missed a lot of games. And then Durant I know Durant's coming off an injury last year and everything. And then Harden missed a lot of time too. But I understand when injuries happen, but when you see guys missing a ton of time and then it's like, oh, guess what? We're just going to flip the switch and win in the postseason. That makes the regular season look worse than we already thought. So hopefully the league makes an adjustment.
They definitely do, and I'm not trying to be devil's advocate, but that I also thought that's what bit the Lakers in the ass too. Like those are teams didn't give a crap about the regular season.
That's true. But Anthony Davis had an Achilles thing. You're right.
True.
That's a fair point though. But
I'm with you. I'm with you though. They need to make the regular. That's my biggest issue with the NBA regular season too, is they have to make that more valuable. Because like you said, Brooklyn, they don't. Do you think they gave a rat's ass what seed they were?
No, they didn't.
Because they'll win in any build. It doesn't matter. They have that much talent.
They do not care. No, none whatsoever. Although I'm sure Kyrie was rattled that first Celtics game. But other than that, they do not care.
Oh, he definitely shit down his leg a little bit there.
But you know what, Matt? Remember when we first talked about the midseason tournament on 5 Out, and it was like, what is this? This is never going to happen. I think Ty was like, why are we even wasting our time on this? Well, now it seems like it's really going to happen, and it is a terrible idea. This sounds so stupid. And
so I thought the play-in game was stupid too, only because I think if you're the 7th seed, you shouldn't have to play to get in. Maybe you want to do something with the 8-9. I'm okay with that, but no, it's still kind of you like the Warriors, right? They lose and then they play again. It's shouldn't they just be eliminated?
Why did I think last year's play-in was a different situation? Because I could have sworn it was 7 plays 10.
No, there was. I don't even think it was like that. I think if you were close enough in the standings, right? Remember?
Oh, that's what it was.
Played, and they just. I'm pretty sure they played. It was one game.
You couldn't be more than 4.5 games out. I think it was
correct, and I think it was a best of 3 series if the 9 seed had beaten the 8 seed, or something like that.
Okay.
Because there was only one playing game, or maybe it was 2.
And it was great. I mean, look, I think the concept of it has proven to be awesome. People seem to love it. And sure. I mean, obviously, in the grand scheme of things, your team is whoever wins those games, they're not going to do shit. But I do like the concept. Obviously, it's been a success. But and obviously, what they did with the All-Star game was very successful too, where they changed
they did the Elam ending.
Elam, thank you. So that's been great, but I feel like you're jumping the shark here with this mid-season tournament. I don't think.
Yeah. Well, I also just throwing it out there. We don't have to debate this or anything or make a big deal out of it. But it's funny how the bubble, I think it's 3 out of the 4 teams that were in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals are knocked out in the first round.
That's
just putting that out there. That's crazy.
That is pretty crazy. But if you're trying to knock LeBron, don't say anything.
I'm not.
That's the hardest
I'm just saying
ever.
Playoff P has more wins at the Staples Center than LeBron. Actually, wow. I think in the playoffs, they might be tied now.
That's nuts, though.
They both have 1 win.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's crazy to think about. That LeBron is that was LeBron's first playoff game in LA Staples Center. It was the first year he was there. They obviously didn't make it to the playoffs. And then
that has been so God.
He just needs to retire. Get out of my face.
He's the greatest of all time. No, people are so stupid. I do not understand Stan culture, because Stan start out as wasn't Eminem mocking that guy named Stan? Yeah. And now it has turned into a positive thing. I stand this person. What the fuck's the matter with you? I don't get sycophants like that with anything in life, But you know what? I am happy about that we were able to do this, and I want you to know I'm happy you kept doing podcasting, because I had fun doing it with you. Work did not allow for me to do it anymore with the way with what was going on and with you guys and your schedules. But you and Julio have been doing a good job. I love I know Skippy was on, but I love the Ducharme interview. Yeah. That's a great guy.
Great dude. Well, again, I appreciate
all his stuff about refs or whatever, him trying to be nice. I remember I covered him quite a bit. I've seen quite a few like college basketball games, and like in my time, like I dated a college basketball player in college, and I saw a lot of people argue with refs. I've never seen someone trip refs like him, even more than Skippy. I'm telling you, man. I didn't see Skippy in his heyday.
I left him.
Matt Ducharme. Whew.
Yeah, I left him off the hook because I've seen him at camps. Like he's got the energy, man. He's just like, I'm not saying he was like complaining the kids roughing, but like he's got the energy. So when he said, I hit him with the so you're not as bad as Skippy. He said no, and I was like, all right, just let him go.
But I will give him that. Like he is a fun coach to watch, and I don't even know if I've ever said that in my life before. He's a fun coach to watch.
Yeah, a lot of energy. But yeah, so I appreciate you coming on. It was fun. It felt like the old days.
Yeah, because when we first started, it was just you and me, no tie.
Correct. So I wanted to do this with you because Julio does it to end the show, all our shows. It's called the Who What, and I think it's a play on his name. I still haven't figured it out, but anyway, it's 5 questions. Starting with who or what. So just a couple easy ones for you. Who was your favorite basketball player growing up?
I knew you were going to ask me this, and this is such a tough one for me because like I love Ray Allen growing up. It's like it's changed for me every so often. Ray Allen is probably my favorite one growing up, though. I like Paul Pierce a lot too. Paul George became the guy for me, but in there also was Brandon Roy, who I loved. And I would say like as growing up, it's just because of age, it's probably Ray Allen, but Brandon Roy is like always like. We talk, I know we rip about like the what ifs or whatever. He is the biggest what if for me ever, and I wish that I still love my Brandon Roy Blazers jersey. Still love him.
Great answer. What is your favorite breakfast cereal?
Oh, geez. I really like Honey Nut Cheerios. As lame as that sounds,
it's classic.
They're perfect. I just talked about this with a buddy of mine recently too. Shit, I guess I got to go with Honey Nut Cheerios right now, and I don't know why I can't think of. I like Reese's Puffs too, but yeah, I'll go with that.
What is your favorite hobby?
I guess,
or any couple. I don't know.
I guess reading is probably my favorite hobby.
Yeah,
like reading stuff that isn't sports related. I do that for a living.
That's true.
Yeah.
I threw this one in there for you. Threw you a little bone because if anybody knows, Nick's a baseball guy. Who was your favorite baseball player growing
up? Mike Piazza was my favorite baseball player growing up. 1,000%.
You still have those jerseys, no?
I still have like his Mike Piazza action figure in my condo. So yeah, I love like Piazza I'm a pitcher and I absolutely hate hitters. Like everybody's all upset about like guys striking out a ton. I want everybody in the earth to fucking strike out. I don't care. But Piazza was my favorite growing up. I love Mark Pryor. And I wish we were older when Pedro was in on the Red Sox.
It does suck. It sucks.
We couldn't appreciate him in his full.
I won't lie to you. I still watch that video when that All-Star game, those 2 innings when he just mauled those dudes. That was unbelievable.
So he's ridiculous.
Electric. I mean, that was an All-Star game. That was electric.
It was an All-Star game in the steroid era. A man who was never connected to steroids, and I think he got McGuire and Sosa that whole thing.
They had no shot of hitting the ball.
Like that. Like I know people talk about their heydays are the best. Well, like. I don't know, like, what if Pedro, Randy Johnson, and Maddox fall under our like heyday necessarily because we were still young.
Yeah,
but
we were young.
Those 3 guys are the 3 best pitchers of all time. Period. End of discussion. Never been linked to steroids, and they fucking dominated in that era. Whoever your best, your whatever order you want to put it in, fine. I take Pedro, then it's like I don't even know Maddox, Randy Johnson. Depends on how I feel that day. But those 3, ridiculous. It's like it's I don't like MJ being the GOAT. Those 3, no argument. But that's it for baseball.
All right, this last one. No, that was good. I like that. That's why I threw it in there for you.
I can't help it. It's Celtics and baseball. It's just going to get me going.
So the last question, I always throw this. It's a very hard question because I know if I was on the receiving end, I don't know how I'd answer it. So I'll throw it out to you. What are your top 3 favorite movies of all time? If you have a favorite, you can just go with that.
I thought it was favorite sports movie of all time was how you asked this.
I did. I put that. Yeah, I did.
Okay. So
it's a hard question.
I'm going to take a second with this. So I want to say first, my mom's favorite sports movie used to be Coach Carter, and then it became The Blind Side. She loves those movies, and I love Coach Carter. Watched that a ton growing up. The Way Back with Ben Affleck was I thought it was. You see that?
No, I've seen the previews of it. I was gonna watch it.
I thought that was gonna be like, oh, what is this? Like, we've seen this movie. It was actually really well done. I really enjoyed it. So any basketball fans out there, I highly recommend it. It's more about life lessons and stuff, but you know, with basketball, as opposed to like Coach Carter, which it is life lessons, but a lot of basketball in it. So it was really good. But for me, my favorite one, people knock this movie, and I don't understand why, but Field of Dreams. I absolutely love that.
No, that one, the scene of him playing catch with his dad every time you get goosebumps with it. And you don't need to be a baseball junkie, like obviously because Matt's a basketball guy first. Like you watch that and you remember shooting in your front yard, or catch with your dad, man.
Playing catch with your dad, whatever it is. Like that moment right there, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. To me, like 100% no brainer. But when I think about actually, you know what? There's that, but then I forget that this is technically a sports movie. I fucking love The Fighter. I absolutely love
That's true. It is a sports movie. It's honestly a fantastic movie. But yeah, I never think of it in that category, right? But
yeah, I mean, like I love Marvel movies. Matt and I grew up loving Lord of the Rings together too. It's but like The Fighter might be like gun to my head. Ace Ventura is probably my favorite comedy of all time, but I think gun to my head, like, I don't know if it's still like at one point it was definitely The Fighter. I mean, God, Christian Bale in that movie is just
unbelievable.
I can't think of the quotes right now. It's been too long.
When he
where'd you park the fucking car, boo boo? I didn't park it. You did.
Don't tell mom.
Your fucking pockets for the keys.
Don't tell mom.
Yeah. What kind of dog is that? A Cocker Spaniel?
Yeah. I hit him with the left.
Yeah. Yes. Head body, right?
It's amazing that what he did to his body too for that movie. It's
insane. And Amy Adams was great in that too, especially when she mocks Dickie. Like, my chest was Sugar Ray. That was in The Family in that movie too. Yeah. That's that. Oh God. By the way, I've heard that he is actually still a mess, Dickie. By the way, in real life.
I believe that. I believe that.
He was something else.
So again, I appreciate you coming on. If anybody wants to follow Nick Friar on Twitter, he's at Nick_Friar. He's got some great, I was telling him the other day, because he's obviously working for DraftKings. I steal some of your prop bets from here and there. Yeah, so it's great.
It's been going well. And I was doing basketball stuff when I was at, like basketball bets when I was at USA Today, and I'm hoping to get back to that next year. I mean, we have a ton of great basketball guys already, so keep tabs on all those. But I definitely want to get back in on that because as much as I love doing baseball, it's definitely a lot harder to gamble on baseball. As much as I'm knocking on wood, doing fine with my picks, basketball is definitely easier to be good at.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but you don't need my help with that. You know what's going on with that.
Well, I know it's all fixed. Yeah, I know that.
Well, we didn't even touch on any of that. It's probably best. It's good for the kids. We don't need to hear that.
They don't need to. Bet responsibly. All right, Nick, I appreciate you coming on.
Anytime, brother.
Hey, just stay true to yourself. And if nobody want to help you, you can do it yourself. And if you live and impress others, it's how you losing yourself. And if you keep on running back, you just abusing yourself. Damn. I pray to God that you find your way. And when times is good, don't forget to pray. And be thankful for all the blessings that seem to come your way, cause that's how more come to you. That's all I had to say.